I am 75 years old, and I learned I was terminally ill on a Tuesday morning that felt so ordinary it almost offended me. I sat in my car afterward for a long time, not crying, not praying, just staring at the steering wheel and realizing that something had quietly ended without making any noise. I knew before the doctor finished explaining it that there was no fixing it, no reversing it, no clever plan that would buy me back what was already gone. I nodded like a man listening to instructions he did not intend to follow, then shook the doctor's hand and walked out into the parking lot, where the sun was doing exactly what it had always done. I did not go home. I did not call my children. I did not tell anyone at all. I drove west until the city thinned out and the road stopped pretending it was important, and I ended up somewhere I had not been in more than 50 years. I went back to the boarding house where I lived when I was 22. The building is smaller now, or maybe I am just larger in my memories, heavier with years that did not exist back then. The paint was different, the porch railing replaced, the windows newer, but the shape of it was the same. And when I pulled over and turned off the engine, my hands started shaking for reasons I did not yet understand. That was where my life first began to look like something official. That was where I believed effort would be enough, that attention would come later, that love could wait until I had earned it properly. Standing across the street, I could still see the version of myself who thought he was being responsible. Back then, I worked 6 days a week at a machine shop that smelled like oil and hot metal, coming home tired in a way that felt clean. I kept my shirts folded, my shoes lined up, my future mapped out in simple steps that seemed honest at the time. I believed consistency was the same thing as commitment. There was a woman who lived 2 rooms down from me. Her name was Helen, and she laughed in a way that made her tilt her head back slightly, like she was surprised by her own amusement. We talked in the evening sometimes, sitting on the front steps with paper cups of coffee, our shoulders close, but never touching. She asked me once where I saw myself in 10 years, and I told her about promotions, savings, stability, all the words I had learned to respect. She nodded and smiled, but I remember now that she did not look impressed. She looked patient, as if she were waiting for something else to arrive that never did. I did not ask her the same question. I assumed there would be time. When my shift changed and my hours got longer, our conversations became shorter, then infrequent, then polite, in the way strangers are polite when they no longer expect anything from each other. One evening I came home and her room was empty, her name gone from the mail slots, her absence so complete it felt intentional. I told myself that was how life worked, that people moved on, that focus required sacrifice, and that later I would understand why it all mattered. I carried that explanation with me for decades, never examining it too closely. I married another woman years later, raised children, paid bills, showed up where I was supposed to show up. I was dependable in a way that people admired quietly. I attended school plays but thought about work. I listened to my wife but answered her with half-finished thoughts, confident I could always circle back. I did not mean to drift away from her. I simply kept assuming tomorrow would be more available than today. Our marriage did not end in shouting or betrayal. It faded like a photograph left in the sun, colors thinning until one day you realize you are holding something that no longer resembles what it once was. She grew quieter, then sharper, then finally tired in a way that did not ask to be fixed. When she died, years before my diagnosis, I stood at her bedside and held her hand. noticing how small it felt, how much space there was between us that had not always been there. I told her I was sorry for things I could not name clearly, and she nodded as if she understood without needing details. That was the first time I felt the edge of irreversibility, though I did not recognize it as such. I thought grief had an end point, that sorrow behaved like a process you moved through, not something you learned to carry without complaint. After the funeral, life resumed its routines with surprising efficiency. Meals needed cooking, mail needed sorting. The world did not pause long enough for me to catch up to my own thoughts. Years passed quietly after that. Friends moved away or died. My children called less often, not out of cruelty, but because their lives were full in ways mine no longer was. I filled my days with errands, appointments, television noise, anything that made the hours feel accounted for. I believed I had accepted the shape of my life. I believed that acceptance was the same thing as peace. Then came the diagnosis, delivered gently, professionally, without drama. A handful of months, maybe a year if things moved slowly. Enough time to settle affairs, not enough time to become someone new. Driving back to that boarding house, standing in front of it with my hands in my pockets, I understood for the first time what I had been postponing all along. It was not adventure or success or even happiness. It was attention. It was presence. It was the willingness to sit still with another person without needing to justify the moment. I did not knock on the door. I did not ask who lived there now. I simply stood until my legs ached, letting the memories arrive without correcting them, without defending myself against them. I remembered how Helen once reached for my arm when I laughed, then stopped herself, as if unsure she was allowed. I remembered how my wife used to wait for me to finish my sentences, even when I did not deserve that patience. I remembered my children asking questions I answered too quickly, eager to return to something I believed mattered more. None of that could be revisited. None of it could be repaired with apologies or explanations or sudden clarity. Time had not been taken from me. I had given it away in small, reasonable portions until there was nothing left to claim. I left the boarding house as quietly as I arrived. I drove home and made phone calls I should have made earlier, not to fix anything, but to say what there was still room to say. Some conversations were brief. Some were awkward. All of them were honest in a way I had not practiced enough. Now, as I sit in my living room, 75 years old, with the afternoon light settling on furniture that will outlast me, I am not looking for redemption or meaning. I am simply trying to be accurate. If I am speaking to you now, it is not to warn you or instruct you or urge you to change course. I only want you to understand what I did not, which is that the ordinary moments are not placeholders for something better. They are the only material we are given. I do not know exactly how much time I have left. I know it is less than I once assumed, and more than some others were granted. That knowledge does not feel dramatic. It feels precise. I am not afraid of dying. I am aware of what I am leaving unfinished, and I am finally resisting the urge to explain it away. This is where I went after I found out I was terminally ill. I went back to the place where I first chose postponement over presence, and I stood there long enough to admit what it cost me. That is all I have to offer now.